We sincerely apologize for that break as occasioned by a technical hitch. I think that's part of what we have to deal with in the continent, Africa. Well, while we had a break, we were about the topic for today, which is on ECOWAS saga and the Coup hit countries' withdrawal from the regional bloc and its impact. And I did say that we're going to be having an opportunity, both the presenter from the Abuja Network Center and I from Benin Network Center, to interact with our guests here on the platform on this very, very sensitive topic. As I have academicians here, starting from my extreme left, I have a seasoned public affairs analyst, a political scientist and lecturer at University of Benin, particularly from the Department of Political Science, Neville Obakedo. Thanks for joining, Neville.
Good morning, ITV. Good morning, viewers and listeners at home, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've always enjoyed the robust contributions from Neville, and today wouldn't be different. And also close to Neville, we have a seasoned economist, an erudite political analyst also, and is also a lecturer at University of Benin from the Department of Economics, and he is Presley, Dr. Presley Osemige. Thanks for joining, Dr. Presley.
Thank you, Philip. We're in Nigeria. Thank you for having me.
And of course, we have the able presence of the professor, Professor Julius Iyasele. Thanks for sustaining the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's quickly go back to the subject, like what the professor said concerning what could be the reasons or the reactions from the people for which we have these juntas. I think that, again, isn't really properly spoken about by the regional bloc, because for every junta to be experienced in any government, there must be a reason. And we always say, even when it happens, the people seem to celebrate, they welcome, they receive the juntas. But the otherwise is what we get when the regional bloc starts meting out sanctions. Basically, we look at the need to celebrate democracy and also to make sure that democracy is embraced by all. But let's look at your thoughts, Neville Obakedo. As a political scientist, you follow this procedure, you followed the intervention of the juntas in politics in Africa and the contagious effect it may have. What are your thoughts alongside what just developed as a result of the withdrawal of these Coup hit countries from the regional bloc, ECOWAS?
In the first instance, the three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic, these are countries alongside the Republic of Guinea, that's Guinea-Conakry, that despite the fact that they are aware of ECOWAS protocol, they decided to embark on unconstitutional means of changing government. And so it is the duty of the bloc, in this case, ECOWAS Commission. If it had happened in Southern Africa, I tell you the truth that the Southern Africa Development Commission, SADC, will also ostracize or suspend the countries that are trapped in this military coup d'etat. They're coming to the issue of these three countries. These are countries that we are aware they have been facing insurgencies from the Al-Qaeda network and the Islamic State of the West Africa province, ISWAP. Now, one expects, for instance, the military, for them to effect a change of government and disobey and disregard ECOWAS protocol. They were supposed to have made recommendations on how to tackle insecurities in their country. They failed to do so. Now, from the way they are dancing, you know that this coup were induced by the Wagner mercenary group that is led by Russia. That is the reason why the three countries that are formed what we call Alliance of the Sahel State, they decided to cut relations with their colonial master, which is France, and they now say they are going to Russia for security. If they had not premeditated it, they could not have just woken up after the military coup d'etat to say we are now going to Russia to get security for our country. But more importantly, we know that the world that we live in, unconstitutional means of changing government, which is military coup d'etat, is not the in thing, it's not the reigning thing. Because in every generation of leadership, there's what we call political developmental epochs, where different systems of government are globally acclaimed. At a particular point in Africa, we used to have military dictatorship. If you go to Burkina Faso, we had one late General Lamizana. He was the first person to overthrow the government of the old upper voter, which another military leader in the person of Captain Thomas Sankara now named that country Burkina Faso. So this is a country that has experienced military coup before it now started embracing democracy. Now, the spirit of militarism and military dictatorship had not departed from Burkina Faso, despite the crisis that the nation state may be facing. Because a military leader who overthrew the government of Captain Thomas Sankara, Blaise Compaoré, who was the closest friend to Thomas Sankara, who assassinated him and took over government from him, transmuted from military dictatorship to a civilian president, and he was there for close to 30 years before there was a massive uprising. I'll underline the word massive uprising before the man escaped for his life, and then democracy came in. I expected the military leaders of Burkina Faso, because that's the second coup within a year, to learn and imbibe the tenets of democracy.
Okay.
That is that for Burkina Faso. Then we have Mali as a republic. The first military coup in Mali was the one that was spearheaded by General Moussa Traoré. For many years, Moussa Traoré was the leader of Mali. As a matter of fact, he transmitted from military dictator to civilian president. The people of Mali, for many years after their independence, they were used to military rule. As a matter of fact, their psyche and their psychology is subservient to military dictatorship. And so, if they have a democracy that is not delivering the dividends of good governance to them, they can say, goodbye Celia, welcome Charybdis. They can be clapping to say, we need another military dictatorship. And then we have Niger Republic. I was in secondary school, primary school, when I realized that General Al-Hassan Koche was the president of Niger for many years. Again, it transmitted from the military dictatorship to become a civilian president. And so the psyche and psychology of Nigerians is military. They like military, and if any leadership that is provided by civilian government is not delivering for them, to them according to the way the military people deliver, they will say, we want military government. Now, if I want to take a comparative analysis of the leadership of countries that have military rule and the leadership of countries that do not have military rule, which one is better within the West African sub-region? I watch football, this African football in Yamoussoukro, the hometown of Félix Houphouët-Boigny, the first independent president of La Côte d'Ivoire, which is Ivory Coast. And I see the way this man transformed this country for many years as a civilian president. I watched Senegal and the Ivory Coast, and I remember as I was watching their match last night to this early hours of this morning, I remember that Abdou Diouf and Leopold Sedar Senghor were the civilian leaders of Senegal.
Okay.
And Senegal has blossomed.
Okay, you just enumerated the factors or what seem to be comfortable with this system, with these countries in terms of adopting the military style. But we all see the military interregnum, into politics as a big challenge when it comes to acceptability in terms of governance. Now, you were making mention of the comparative analysis in terms of the benefits that this government has come with as compared to the democratic government. Now, let's get your input as an economist. We've always seen the dark side of military interregnum. But unfortunately, like he said, like we also see in reports, these people that are having these juntas seem to celebrate this system of government. Now, what do you make as per the challenges economic-wise of this decision to withdraw from the regional bloc by these co-hit countries?
Okay, thank you once again, Mr. Flip. I think let's look at the major objective of ECOWAS. Is to ensure economic cooperation among member states with the major aims of improving the welfare and the standard of living for the people.
Yes.
Let's also forget the aspect of monetary policy to ensure, harmonious coordinations of monetary policy among these member, states. And again, there's also a target to ensure that, unemployment is reduced, and also healthcare facilities are given to the people, and again to ensure that at least the welfare in terms of organ. Let's look at the poverty rate among these member states. It's very, very alarming, including that of Nigeria, as well. Now, over time, the military rule seems to be in terms of keeping to the tenet or holding strong to strong institutions. I've emphasized before now that strong institution is very, very fundamental to the growth and progress of any nation. Let alone this side country, where this coup is being taking place. If you observe, these countries lack strong institutions, that will guarantee the welfare of the people, that will guarantee good governance, that will guarantee improvement in the life of the people, and that will ensure economic development.
Which they may not also get from the military interregnum.
But if if you said, let's look at like what Dr. David said, the benefits of democratic government, what it brought, to book. Now, it takes even democracy. Let's look at freedom per se. I think I'm interested in freedom. How truly free and fair are elections in this country? Like he said, there was transition from military, from the so-called military government to civilian government, where the process and the procedure was fair to ensure that there was good governance, there was smooth transition without due interference.
It's a learning process. Democracy is a learning process. It's a learning process. And so for the very fact that through transition we are not getting it right in Africa, doesn't mean that democracy is not also the best system of government. Because looking at what the military interregnum comes with, suspension of the constitution, and an act of ruling with force, that basically isn't it.
They believe that the people are not basically benefiting from the resources, of the states. When resources, now I like generalizing. For instance, let's look at the case of, military, government. In terms of corruption, they may have high level of profile level of corruption, but also there's this tendency, to drive and promote to an extent, the welfare of the people.
We are not looking at the benefits of the military government. We are not looking at that at all.
I'm not telling you. That's more reason why the people, even the people themselves, the citizens themselves, have not voted against military, government. They believe that to an extent, they are getting, there's an improvement, to their life, compared to, when there's democracy. For example, like when Neville did make mention of a situation whereby there's although there's an interior or intrinsic, motive regarding the so-called military intervention in these states, so that they can, do away with, their, former, colonial masters.
Yes.
But let's also forget.
You made mention of strong institutions being absent in these countries,
yes,
which is also a setback, to making them galvanize into a system of government that will work for them.
Yeah.
And now, Professor, I think this has been the challenge, because we're not getting it right. Doesn't mean that democracy isn't the best system of government. Now, you made mention of the fact that, you know, democracy hasn't helped as such. But let's look at the other side. Now, we also heard where Neville Obagedo also made mention of the influence of Russian government in this whole story. Do you see this as what will augur well for the ECOWAS?
Let me posit first of all that Neville succeeded in his presentation in telling us about the transmutation of persons from military to civilian governance. And so maybe, you know, a leopard never changes its skin. So whether they were there under democratic governance or thereabouts, were they actually dispensing that? Were human rights uppermost in such countries and all that?
Under the democratic
Yes.
government?
Let me tell you that Pan-Africanism that was jettisoned by a number of countries in Africa and institutions in Africa is a very big problem. Because the essence of ECOWAS, essence of OAU, were to address the interests of Africa, bringing together. Because Africa, most African countries were colonized by these imperialists.
Do you see them debating?
And then the imperialists have continued to hand down, suppress and press down these countries from growing. Look at, for instance, let's cite example, Niger. The uranium that powers electricity in France is gotten from Niger. But why France had electricity, Nigerians don't have power and all that. And so what do you take of all of this? And then this went on for all these years. While that was going on, then the others were exploiting and degrading even sister countries like Nigeria, where we are, and all that. You know, if you on this same seat in this studio, I talked about during the COVID era of how COVID was ravaging Nigeria. They discovered the drug to take care of COVID in America. We refused to give to Nigeria, whereas it went to Paris. That was because they just said, good luck then. Our president had refused to accept same-sex marriage and all of that. And so if you watch what these colonial masters have done over the years, it is only for their own interests, not for the generality of Africa. And so that is what you are saying. For a very long time, you have abandoned these people or even helped to dehumanize, and so you left them. They have now been able to at least take destinies in their hand, and they are trying to look at another that will help to sustain them. Okay, whereas
you spoke about ECOWAS not getting it right, abandoning the purpose for which they were instituted or established.
Yes.
What do you see as what they should do in order to retrace their steps?
Excuse me. You have heard of for instance, look at the level of killings in Nigeria. Look at the level, the terrorist infestation in Nigeria, for instance. And you know, these other Sahel countries are the receiving bed of all these terrorists coming from the Sahel and all that. And then no ECOWAS has come up. The ECOWAS has not come up to say, what do we do concerning this? How do we help these countries? The resources that comes from these countries are continually being exploited, and nobody has winked or blinked concerning it, and yet the people remain in squalor. So what do you think? And so now the people are loyal to the military junta. That is what it is. That is the support. It's democracy, not government for the people, about the people. Now the people have said, no, we are no more interested in that. We are interested in these young men who are hot-headed, who wants to take us out of squalor.
Okay.
That is just
Africans are also interested in the role that Russia is playing in this whole fight. Now, we don't know that every country is fighting for supremacy, even in the developed world. Now, let's look at your thoughts, Neville Obagedo. What do you see as the intricacies that may be spiraling from this effect? by the Russia's influence in this whole story?
You see, in international relations and international politics, every nation state, including the Russian Federation, they have what we call national interest. That national interest, if you take a critical look at it, is not the interest of the nation. It is the interest of the excuse me of the governing elite and the ruling elite, which used to spread across bureaucratic setup, the economy and the other parts of the country. They now come up with what they call foreign policy of the country, so that they can be related with other countries. So what Russia is doing, Russia is promoting her national interest. Unfortunately,
at the detriment of this African country?
Yes, unfortunately,
okay.
Russia was not part of those who colonized Africa. Otherwise, Russia would have been a former colonial master.
Oh, thank you.
As we speak now, Russia is a new colonial master.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I want you to understand something about.
I'll come there. Let's quickly get your thoughts as per what he said. Do you see the buoyance of African countries by the intrusion of Russia into this African story?
I think the intrusion of Russia is basically to create balance, to ensure that the continuous exploitation by the colonial masters will not continue perpetually.
Okay.
They have been making and sourcing the resources of this country, and that will not be allowed to continue. I think.
So you are saying that Russia's intrusion will bring a balance?
It is to create a balance.
Oh, really? Yeah. Economically?
Yeah, and otherwise, even politically.
Okay.
To create a balance in these countries.
Okay, I think we're going to be having all of these thoughts in subsequent editions. Big thanks, Temilo Bagedo. Big thanks, Presley, Dr. Presley Osemenge, and Professor Jilosi Yasele. We're going to be joining Abuja Network Center, where a continuation of today's deliberation will be seen.